And when I took a look at all of the candidates that were running, I just found it ironic that all of the people that are running as candidates wanting to be the leader have spent the last 10 years creating and developing all of these policies, that they're actually trying to undo now.
Well. It looks like we have a new/old face entering the race to become the next Liberal leader as well as our Prime Minister. This individual, Ruby Dahl, she's been starting her media rounds. Yesterday, she was on the CBC with David Cochrane. This morning, she was on CP24. And a few days ago, she was actually on CTV. Now, I've done a little bit of digging into finding out who this woman actually is. But before we get into that, I'm going to play some of her interview at CBC just so she can give you her little spiel. So without further ado, take a listen.
A new face has entered the Liberal leadership race pretty much at the 11th hour. Ruby Dahl has announced her bid to replace Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Dahl served as an MP for Brampton in the House of Commons from 2004 to 2011, and since losing her seat, she's filled her time in the hotel sector and as a philanthropist. And she joins us now from Toronto. Ruby Dahl, it's good to see you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here today.
You've been away from politics for more than a decade. Why return now and think the right way to return is to become Prime Minister?
Well, first of all, I think I share the anger and the frustration of thousands of Liberals across the country because the Liberal Party of today is no longer the Liberal Party as we knew it. I've been volunteering, with the Liberal Party since the age of 14. I've dedicated so much of my life to public service, and over the last 10 years, it's almost become a one-man show. And when I took a look at all of that and received many phone calls from across the country, I realized that we needed the perspective of someone who is a self-made businesswoman, a self-made entrepreneur, who knows the challenges firsthand that entrepreneurs and businesses in this country are facing. And then as a healthcare provider, I have such great insight into the crisis of our healthcare system. And then being a 3-time elected MP, I also have the legislative experience that I think is needed and a necessity to navigate the many, many unprecedented challenges that Canadians and our country is facing.
Well, I appreciate your criticism that a lot of the people who are running on platforms to change things were there when they got to a point where they needed change. But should you win this, they would also be your candidates and your caucus, right? So you would be bringing that team along. So how does your criticism of them help you in this?
Now, I gotta say, David does have a point. Bashing your fellow cabinet mates or candidates, if you do become the next Liberal leader, is not probably the best idea, but she's not the only one who's been doing it. Karina Gould took shots at, a banker and a journalist. There's been other cabinet members who have been endorsing Mark Carney, bashing basically Freeland, saying we need somebody who knows what they're doing in the economic and financial department. So all these Liberals are kind of attacking each other so that they can gain the top spot. So this point by David was kind of pointless, but she goes on to talk about how she's done philanthropy and she's a big advocate for this and that, but and that she's a fresh face. That's the main thing, because David then decides to dig up some history on her, which prompted me to do a little bit more digging. So take a listen to what David says.
Right, so you say you would be a fresh face, and that would certainly be true for this current generation of Liberals since the big comeback in 2015, but you're also a 3-term MP, as you said. And, if people Google Ruby Dahl, some of the first things that come up to remind is, I'm resigning as critic to clear my name because you were accused of, mistreating nannies and not paying them enough and using them to do work in your business beyond the scope of what they were hired for. So how do you explain that to the current generation of Liberals when they see these stories from the past?
To the current generation, of Liberals and those, that have been asking, I was the victim of a conservative drive-by smear campaign, and I'm not going to get into all of the details, but that smear campaign will not be tolerated. When I was first elected, I had the honor of being one of the first women of Indian origin elected as a member of parliament, not only here in Canada, but the entire Western world. And the way that women, the challenges that they faced in the political process, I think that the environment has definitely changed. I'm a lot stronger, I'm a lot wiser, and I've gained a tremendous amount of experience where those drive-by smears will no longer be tolerated and no longer be accepted.
Okay, well, I mean, you did step down as critic. There was a settlement in one of the cases, and so you will have to address it presumably at a certain point should you win in greater detail. But
now that was quite the announcement that David made, and it prompted me to do a bit of investigating. Now, it seems like this woman has had a few hiccups in the past, and one of them, outside of this nanny situation that David talked about, was a film that she had been a part of, which was a Bollywood film. She's pretty big in the Bollywood scene, I guess, or she was. There's even a clip from Rick Mercer's report where she talks about that.
Okay, now before we get to the festival, we're here in a video store. This is all Bollywood movies.
Yes, we were giving you a sense of what Bollywood is like out here in Brampton.
Okay, there's thousands of movies here.
There's thousands of
Now,
movies.
you worked in Bollywood.
Yes, I've had a chance to work out there.
How did you do that?
I just...
Because you grew up in Winnipeg?
Yeah, born and raised as a Winnipegger.
So how did you end up in Bollywood?
Had a passion for television and film as well. So when I graduated from chiropractic, I actually went out to India.
But the story that I found was from the CBC, and it says, "My face, but not my body in film publicity material," MP Dahlia says. The former actress in Brampton, Ontario Liberal MP Ruby Dahlia is trying to block a DVD sales of a Bollywood-style movie she co-starred in before being elected in Parliament in 2004. In an interview with the Toronto Sun Wednesday, Dahlia confirmed her role in the 2003 low-budget Hindi film made in Hamilton called Not Even Gonna Try That, Why and For Whom. However, she claimed that the movie's publicity material, including posters and photos, were doctored, putting her face on somebody else's body. Now, this was the only kind of picture that I could find from the Toronto Sun. It says, "Racy Ruby. The Brampton MP Ruby Dahlia tries to stop release of local movie claiming images of her are doctored." So she's claiming that her face was simply put on this woman's body. But when you look at the Wikipedia of this movie, it claims that she was part of it. The film stars Ruby Dahlia. And I don't know if that means she was actually the one in this photo or not, but I don't know how good the technology was back in 2003 that they could have done this to that degree. But with that being said, this to me is kind of a nothing burger. The main the story that I found, which is what David was talking about, was what they call Nannygate. And that involves these two individuals here, as well as another one that you don't really see or hear much about. But this story is about these caregivers, these nannies that were hired to take care of Dahlia's mother. And they claimed that they were in horrible working conditions, horrible living conditions, working long hours. Documents were being held from them. They were promised a path to citizenship in a sort of way, but that never happened. Then they quit, and then she started getting investigated because of the reporting that happened. Now, there actually was a bit of coverage on this. You could see here, there was an article written May 6, 2009. Another follow-up in May 12, 2009. There was also a committee hearing that they did, a standing committee where they had these individuals come in. We could just read a bit of this. It says, live-in caregivers in the Dahlia residence. In addition to hearing the witnesses on the live-in caregiver program in general, the committee also heard testimony about one situation in particular, live-in caregivers in the residence of Neil, Ruby, and Tavinder Dali. Tavinder is her mom, I believe, and Neil was her brother, or is her brother. Two caregivers, Miss Gordo and Miss Tungson, told the committee about their experience as employees in the Dahlia family. They explained their concerns, including long hours and what they perceived to be inappropriate chores, such as cleaning other people's homes and snow shoveling. Miss Gordo indicated that she quit her job with the Dahlia family because she was unhappy and because the Dahlias had not yet obtained the required labor market opinion to authorize her employment. Now, this is where I found things a little interesting because from this document, I actually found a summarized version of it, I guess. And Dahlia actually claims, she says, I, Ruby Dahlia, did not employ Gordo and Tungsten. I did not sponsor them. I did not pay their salaries. And I was not the person that they were providing care to. I had no involvement from an immigration or employment perspective. My involvement as a daughter of a mother who needed care, I did what any child would do for their mother. I only made the initial call to the agency after receiving a referral through the good friend. After the call, both my mother and my brother were in contact with the agency. I don't know why these caregivers have come forward 15 months after leaving on what my family thought was on good terms and with almost identical allegations. I don't know what their motive is or who is behind this. And then she goes into breaking down all of their claims and everything like that. Now, I did find an article from 2 years later saying former MP after 2-year battle with a nanny who accused her family of abuse has ended after a judge told the caregiver to accept a $5,000 settlement, the exact same deal she rejected a year ago because it contained a gag order. Now, that's a little interesting, but it goes on to say, under the settlement, the case against Ruby Dahlia is dismissed and the nanny, Tungsten 38, cannot talk about her experience in the Dahlia's Mississauga home while she worked there for 3 months in 2008. The original deal was agreed to by Tungsten's behalf of her previous lawyer, but Tungsten refused to sign it, saying it was an affidavit that Sinclair had kept her in the dark about the confidentiality clause and that she never agreed to have any deal that would prevent her from talking about the horrid things which I had been forced to endure in that household. Tungsten was not in court when the original deal was struck. She was caring for a 2-year-old child while she talked to the court and her lawyer by cell phone. Tungsten says not being present and the fact that English is her second language hampered her from the understanding of the terms of the settlement. Yesterday, Brampton Small Claims Court Judge Eric Nadler ordered Tungsten to accept the $5,000 payment as compensation for unpaid overtime. Tungsten was originally seeking $15,000 in damages against Ruby Dahlia, her mother Tavinder, and her brother Neil as co-defendants. And again, the article goes down a little bit more, but this is kind of the issues that we're having. No matter who the Liberal candidate is or somebody in the Liberal Party, it seems like there's a scandal at hand. Now, she claims this was a Conservative member attack, or she was being attacked by the Conservatives, because back in 2011, she actually lost her seat to the Conservative member Parm Gill, who was running in the same area as her. But now she's back, and as I mentioned, today she was on CP24, and this was her case that she was pleading to the public.
Both Mark Carney and Chrystia Freeland have submitted the required paperwork in their bid to become the next leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. The two frontrunners getting the required 300 signatures and submitted a $50,000 deposit. That's the initial one. Now, under rules set out by the party, candidates have until 5 p.m. to submit a nomination package. Eventually, the candidates will have to shell out $350,000. It's fundraised that number to get onto the ballot. Registered Liberal voters will vote on March 9th across all 343 ridings. Joining us this morning live now is the latest entrance to the race, leadership candidate Ruby Dahlia, former GTA MP. Ruby, good to see you this morning.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Interesting to see your name in the running because you've been out of politics for, I suppose, around a decade or so now.
Yes.
What's bringing you back in? Why now? Why do you want to join this race? Mm-hmm.
So I thought, given my business experience, given my, profession of being a healthcare provider, and also being someone that was elected over a number of years, it was important to have the voices of diversity. And that's why I am also very proud to announce, and your channel is going to be the first one where we're making this announcement, that I also have submitted my papers to the Liberal Party Party to become the next leader for the Liberal Party and the next Prime Minister of Canada.
Okay, Ruby, that's a big ambition. Let's talk about the Liberal Party right now versus the party you were in, because it's a very different party. I think that's pretty safe to say. You were sort of in the Paul Martin Chrétien years. Now under Justin Trudeau, Chrystia Freeland, in a way, the party, many have said, has perhaps moved too far left, has become a much more bigger spending party. How would you be different? How would you want to lead the Liberal Party in terms of fiscal policy? You just highlighted a lot of business acumen and experience.
Yes. Well, the first part, that I would do, which I think is very important when you take a look at the candidates that are running currently, I am the only one that has not been affiliated or had a connection with the current administration. And, when people found out that I was running, many of them called me an outsider. And for other people, I was a breath of fresh air that Ruby Dalla is coming in, because she is the only person out of all the candidates that doesn't have that connection in creating, any of the policies that have been created over the past 10 years, or navigating the party to the direction, as you said, towards the left. The first act that I would do, as a leader of the party, is to ensure that we get back towards the center, to the right of center, because I think that is the need of the hour.
Now, to be fair, I wouldn't say that I disagree with her. The Liberal Party has gone too far to the left. They need to come back more to the center, because it's less woke over here. But the issue is, on the CBC, she was talking about how the Liberal Party's become a one-man show and is kind of bashing it being all about Trudeau. But then, just a few days ago, when you look at her actual Twitter page, I believe this was around the time that Justin resigned, January 6th, she wrote, "Thank you, Justin Trudeau, for putting people before politics. Many moments shared as young MPs, friends, colleagues, and most importantly, as Canadians passionate about our country, Canada." And then she makes this little video, which I'm just going to mute, of her and Justin over the years when she was there. Just photos with her and him. And it's like, so are you complaining about Justin being the one-man show? Are you promoting him? And even the comments are saying, nope. Running for prime minister and post-bragging about being one of Justin's concubines is far from a good look. We don't want another Liberal, let alone another Justin. You got this one that says, ugh, this post turned me off you as our prime minister. Same old Liberal trash. Must be a bot account, unverified, not even a politician or journalist checkmark. Another candidate that isn't even a sitting MP. This shouldn't be allowed. It leaves our process open to corruption, as the Prime Minister would not be allowed in the House of Commons to answer for themselves. People over politics, clown emoji, laughing their ass off. You have to be joking, right? And this is what I'm talking about. It's the same old thing. It's just Justin reincarnated. But as we close off the video, I just wanted to play the rest of it, because she ends up bashing Trudeau again, saying she wasn't born with a silver spoon in her mouth, but posts this on her Twitter makes no sense. And I do want to cut back to the David Cochrane interview, because she then claims that she's here to save Canada. But as we close off the video, I do want to finish off her little interview there, because she starts bashing Trudeau again, saying how she wasn't born with a silver spoon in her mouth, but this is the plan that she has laid out for the country and the party. But I also want to cut back to the David Cochrane interview towards the end there, because she talked about how she was actually at the inauguration for Donald Trump. She met with a few high-up people, and she's telling them that she's here to save Canada. Take a listen.
Let me ask you this before I let you go. The carbon tax has been likely the most controversial signature policy of the Liberal government. What is your position on the consumer carbon tax? Would you scrap it? Would you keep it? Would you modify it?
The first act of business to be, when I become Prime Minister, would be to end the carbon tax. In addition to ending the carbon tax, I also believe that the latest capital gains, increased tax that was also implemented, I would rescind that. I think it's very important that we do a complete reevaluation of our tax regime in Canada. The world has become very globalized, and we need to take a look at our entire tax system in this country, because I think Canadians they are demanding and they deserve value for tax. And if they're having to pay any type of tax, we need to ensure that we're giving them value for money. And that is where coming in as a businesswoman, coming in, you know, from the perspective of someone who has done a lot of work internationally, we need to be able to compete. And sticking Canadians with a carbon tax and an increase in capital gains tax for entrepreneurs, that is why you see so much frustration across this country. And my campaign, Nick, is going to be based on listening to Canadians, listening to average Canadians, and identifying and connecting with them to ensure that we come up with a plan of action. And you know, you talked about Mark Zuckerberg, who's the founder of Facebook. And when I met him, I was briefing him on Canadian politics and letting him know that I would be entering the race. And he asked, you know, which party are you from? And I said, the Liberal Party. And he kind of scratched his head and he said, what are you doing here at the Trump inauguration? And I said to him, I'm here to save Canada.
So there you have it, folks. Our savior, the shapeshifter, because she looks nothing like she did back in the day. As you can see from the thumbnails, she's changed her face multiple times. But we got the shapeshifter now against Mark Carney, Chrystia Freeland, Karina Gould, and whichever other Liberal member has thrown their name in the race. So the next Prime Minister of Canada is going to be an interesting one. But as always, I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.